Hey, Donald, it's Josh. Talk for a little bit about RESPA.
Good. You see the stuff I sent you?
Yeah, the National Law Review article.
Yeah.
What the CFPB wanted to do was to enforce the plain language of a particular subsection of RESPA involving how additional services provided by a lender ought to be treated. The business industry took the position that if the business services were of fair market value, then you didn't need disclosures and you didn't need to, the consumers didn't need any protections other than the fact that they were fair market value for the services. And the CFPB took a different point, and I take a different point, which is I don't know why the industry should be the ones that determine whether the fair market value was provided. The point of these regulations is that the industry doesn't get to make those calls. The court disagreed. This isn't as obvious a slam dunk as some other things, like taking people's houses even though they pay all their mortgage payments. It's a bit of a gray area, and I understand both perspectives. From the perspective of the CFPB, their thought process is you've got to kind of be joking here. We're going to give to industry the ability to determine what is fair market value and what is not fair market value for an add-on service that isn't disclosed as being sold by the company that provided you the mortgage in the first place. The whole point of this is so consumers have knowledge and know what's going on. If you read the statute very carefully and in detail, and you compare lots of different subsections to one another, you can fashion a statutory constructed argument that says as long as it's fair market value, there don't need to be any disclosures because it's fair market value and nobody's being cheated. From a statutory construction point of view, which is what the court adopted, they might be right. From a spirit of the rule, how these different sections and subsections of the rule ought to be interpreted in light of what happened in the past, the court's probably not coming down on the side of the consumers. This sort of highlights the importance of the CFPB, because what the court has done, right or wrong, they didn't make up the law here. Right or wrong, the court has looked at the various sections and subsections and permutations and parts and sections of the Real Estate Procedure Act and the regulations, which are very, very complicated, and interpreted them. Let's assume for the moment that they interpreted them exactly correctly. The only reason why there was ever this suit is because the CFPB said, wait, you can't package things. You got to sell them one at a time and you got to disclose to consumers. The fact that we had this lawsuit is a result of the CFPB. It didn't go the way of the CFPB. I'm sorry it didn't, because I really don't think it's really, I don't care if it's a hardship to business. I think it's fair that people know what's going on. And if business needs to be regulated to be fundamentally fair and it costs them money, why do I care? Why do you care? Why does anybody except the shareholders care? And I don't care about the shareholders. I care about the consumers. The point only is, this is an incredibly complicated industry, an incredibly complex series of regulations. The industry will say, well, the fact that they're so complex is just really the problem. No. The fact that there are an infinite number of ways for people with money to steal from people without, that's the problem. And because of that, you have to have well thought out, well enforced rules and regulations. The next step in the litigation process here won't happen. The next step in the litigation process won't happen because the next step is they go to the Supreme Court of the United States. And to do that, the CFPB has to take it to the Supreme Court of the United States. But Nick Mulvaney, the new CFPB director, has decided that no regulations are going to be enforced and no lawsuits are going to be continued. So the Supreme Court will never get this issue because they can only come through the CFPB, through the government that lost. And the government now agrees with business that consumers are entitled to no protections. It's a sad state of affairs, and it underlines the importance of having a good faith, consumer-oriented executive branch. And I don't understand, not just as an advocate, I don't understand the thought process, the ideology of people like Mick Mulvaney and Trump, who apparently truly believe that consumers should not be provided any protection. Maybe the thought is business will make more money, and that's always good for the economy no matter what. If so, it's rather childish and stupid. There needs to be regulation and some control here, or people are going to get screwed. So, I don't have more to say on that. Give me some questions.
Give me, just in case anybody doesn't understand the generics of it, give me a specific charge, specific service that would be provided that no longer would they have to be accountable for.
Okay, so let's say that you want to buy mortgage insurance, or you want to buy life insurance with your mortgage, which are two different things. And you check a box, and they offer you life insurance, and they offer you mortgage insurance. Now you've just cut out of the marketplace every other smaller vendor who could come in and offer the consumer a better product at a better price, because you're a captive audience to whatever mortgage originator you're dealing with. Which means that the mortgage originating companies, and there aren't that many of them, control not only the origination cost and the origination benefits, but they control the sale of insurance and the sale of life insurance and the sale of escrow services, and they control everything to the extent that the world and our economy is better served by having smaller players all competing to get away from the monopoly structure. Then this is a bad ruling, because the smaller players aren't going to be invited to sit at this table, and there isn't going to be a price point as to whether or not this is a good market value or not for the services rendered, because there's not going to be any competition.
Why should a business who is offering a consumer something care whether that consumer knows where to go elsewhere for it, or does go elsewhere to look at?
If you're allowed to sell one product to one consumer through only one company, you're going to own that company. That's how it works. The mortgage originator is going to take a piece of that company, because even if that company doesn't exist at the time they start doing business, it'll exist as soon as they close the first 2,000 closings, because they're like, damn, we got a profit margin here we're leaving on the table. Let's not give it to ABC title insurance or ABC mortgage insurance. Let's open, do we screw them and how mortgage insurance. That way we keep the profits. Great. Do it. No problem. But I want to know that I'm going to a marketplace and I want to make my own decisions. I don't want to be told that the only way you can buy this house is if you get this mortgage insurance from this company. Because going back to the doctor idea, if you're in a group of doctors and the kidney guy is an idiot and has a significantly poorer track record in recovery, say, than the standard kidney people in the industry, and you can't get rid of the guy because for whatever reason the politics don't let you do it, and you're supposed to refer to him to make your 20%. Do you? Or do you not? And if you do, have you done something wrong? The answer is you've done something wrong.
If you're forcing people to use that.
But that's what you're doing. You're not giving them any options. If people go into a doctor, they're not going to say, well, I don't really trust you for your referral. Go to somebody else. The majority of people won't. Some people will. But the same thing is true here. The majority of people won't. And the idea behind this whole thing is a mortgage system that works fairly for everybody and nobody has too much of a control over. I go in to do a closing. I want to know what the business relationship is between the owner of the lender, who's the lender, and the company is selling me this particular insurance, and I want to be able to shop and compare. And I don't have a clue where to go to get mortgage insurance. I'm an attorney. I specialize in suing banks for fraudulent lending, and I have no idea where to go to find somebody else to provide me mortgage insurance. I don't know. You don't know. Matt doesn't know. Nobody I know knows. If I want to get life insurance over my mortgage, where do I go to get that? I could probably figure that out, but it's not easy. So I want to be able to have, I want the government to make sure that everybody has options and choices. I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I'm a small business entrepreneur. I don't want ABC, Dewey, Screw 'em and How, law company, law business coming in and saying everybody who's in foreclosure or fighting with a bank, you must go here and find some way that everybody gets dovetailed to them so they can pretend to give them modifications instead of actually litigating. I want every single consumer in the state of New Jersey to be able to do their own research and then realize that I'm the guy you need to talk to because everybody is equal in the marketplace.
And in order for that to be done, what would this mortgage company, whatever, what would they have to say before having the customer check that box? What would have to be the case?
Look, as far as I'm concerned, they shouldn't be allowed to be in that business. They should be regulated out of the insurance business. You want to originate loans? Originate loans. But that's not what the CFPB did. It just said, look, you can't secretly sell to yourself. And you can't sell to yourself without giving anybody any options. And I give you
what should they? What is it they should be doing? Do they have to come clean? You're saying?
No, they don't.
What is it they should be doing?
Well, wait. There's two different questions. What should they be doing, and do they have to come clean? Meaning, what are they going to be made to do? They're not going to be made to change anything. That's the ruling, and we're never going to go to the Supreme Court because Trump is running the CFPB. But what should they be doing? I think that fundamental fairness would require a disclosure and a list of competing entities that do business in this particular marketplace. Look, you want mortgage insurance?
We do business.
Wait a second. Let's say mortgage insurers need to be licensed by the state of New Jersey to provide mortgage insurance. Well, then provide a link to a website. You don't even have to recommend anybody. Just say, link to this website. This is the one we prefer you to use. That would be okay with me because we own it. But just by being silent, not giving the options, and selling only the product that they sell, you're not going to end up with a fair system. You're going to end up with people getting cheated.